Well,
we had two very different experiences.
Very different experiences. The producer, Roy Conley, and I were in Korea because the movie hadn't rolled out yet, and we were doing press and stuff like that. And so we watched it at about 10. We were live streaming it, actually, at 10:30 at night with our Korean Disney team. And we heard our name announced, and we erupted in applause, and we did some celebrating that night. And the fortunate thing is we had to get up very early to go to London the next day. So that was a bit of a rough flight, but it was totally worth it because we were so thrilled.
So they were partying in Korea.
Yeah.
I was back here in LA, and I woke up and got the news and was very excited and was sort of just out of my mind, just thrilled. And then about 3 minutes later, my 7-year-old and 4-year-old came barging in, and they wanted Dad to make breakfast and to play with them, and they didn't care. So it was right back to reality. And so yeah, we had a very different experience.
But I'm sure both of you were both ecstatic.
We exactly.
Yeah, really honored, especially this year. So many great films. The whole animation community is really setting a high bar and doing great work. So to be nominated this year really is meaningful.
Pretty cool.
So let's talk about how both of you got into animation and working together. Have you guys worked together before?
Mm-hmm. Not as directors, but we both worked on Emperor's New Groove, which is kind of a cult classic.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as getting into animation, it's all I've ever wanted to do. I grew up loving Disney films and being really affected by them, and I loved Marvel Comics too. So this really was a project born out of those two childhood passions, but like I said, I think I told my parents when I was, 5, that someday I'm going to work at Walt Disney Studios. I don't know how I knew it, but somehow that was just always my goal, and it's been truly a dream come true.
Yeah, I mean, we've been working in the same building together for about 20 years.
Yeah.
And so we've worked on different movies together, in different capacities. This is the first time we've directed together, but that's one thing I think people don't realize is that Disney Animation, we're all in one building together. We work together on movies year after year, and there's a real camaraderie and a feeling of family that is forged in these sort of difficult circumstances of trying to figure out a story and trying to make a movie better. And so you become very close, and we love what we do. We take the responsibility of being part of carrying the Disney legacy forward very seriously, and yeah, you'll never see a more committed and passionate group of people than the people you'll find at Disney Animation right now.
Let's talk about Big Hero 6. Why this team of different individuals? How do they get along? I mean, they're very different. I can't see them in person and getting along together. They're just so,
Well, I mean, some of my favorite scenes in the film are some of the ones where they're, they're all together and just sort of the banter amongst them, because you can. What I'm proud of is that I think we achieved with very little screen time a sense that these guys have a history together. They've been friends for a while, and they kind of accept each other's sort of personality. Just different personalities, So I really do like that they do seem like they've been friends for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, you try to create characters where there's a lot of variety. I think the common denominator is they're all really smart and curious characters. And so, yeah, I think that there's, you look for common denominators, but you also look for differences. And I think that we found it. I think the dynamic between the group is really fun.
This is pretty much also a central theme, right? About teamwork and working towards the same goal.
Yeah.
How about that? And let's talk about the heart of Big Hero 6. When you work on animation, how do you get the audience to really fall in love with the characters? What's the secret there?
Well, I think it's a lot of it is the emotion. And actually, it was about 3.5 years ago that Don did his initial pitch of Big Hero 6. He pitched about 6 ideas he was excited about, and I was in a room with the other directors, and he was pitching it to us, and they were all great, but there was something in the emotional potential of Big Hero 6. He talked about a main character who loses his older brother, but is left with his older brother's creation, this robot named Baymax, to help deal with the loss. And we were also moved by that idea that the last 3.5 years has really been building a movie around that emotional core and fulfilling that potential that he laid out. And I think that's what it is. I think people, when they come to see the movie, I think they're going to get what they expect, which is a funny movie with lots of action, but they might be surprised by the emotional depth. And I think that's the thing that makes the movie resonate and makes them want to live with the characters even outside of the film.
I know I'm not the only one that's curious about this, but sequel. What is happening over?
Don, what's happening?
Nothing. We've literally we barely finished the movie. By the way, I mean we finished it like I think a week and a half before we had to show it. So we really pushed it right up to the edge, and that left no time to think about what was happening next. And since then, we've actually been rolling the movie out, to all the different countries. So we literally have not discussed it or talked about it. And after this, we're going to take some very long vacations, and then we'll get back together and see what happens next. I mean, the good thing is at our studio. And this comes from John Lasseter. It's really the director's prerogative as far as if there's going to be a sequel or not. Because the story is born out of a director's passion. And so I think, obviously with a sequel, there's got to be a passion to tell another tale involving the same characters. So, but it's never a prescripted kind of corporate thing that we have to make sequels. It's really the sort of director's prerogative. So, but like I said, we're going to take some time off, and then we'll see what happens next.
Yeah, and the process of making a film is interesting because we get to know these characters and we know them so well. We know not just how they would behave in the course of the story, but how they would behave in any circumstance. So they start to become very real to us. And the movie being released, you feel a little bit like a proud parent watching your kid go off to college, and they're going to go live a life without you and meet new people without you, and you really hope for the best for them. And we really love them. And the thought of working with these characters again one day is certainly not unappealing, but it's just not something that we're thinking about right now. We left it all in the field, and now we have to take a break and see what our passions are. And again, we won't tell a story, we won't make a sequel unless there's a story that we feel needs to be told.
And lastly, what is one thing you want audiences really take away from this film?
Well, I think looking on the outside before you see the film, you see it looks like it could be a lot of fun. There's some very funny scenes in the trailers, and the superhero element makes it clear there's going to be some really cool action scenes. But ultimately, you want people to be moved emotionally by the story and the themes that are present in the story. So, and I think people are, and I think they're surprised by it. Which is very gratifying to us. That when you sit in an audience with all these people and you hear them laughing and gasping at some certain scenes, but then when you hear the sniffs, you know that you've connected on a very deep level. And as a storytellers, I think that's what we're always after.